Hey Facebook, how are you today? Thank you for joining me today on the Money Show with LaShawn Holland. I appreciate you taking out your time to increase your financial IQ. So welcome to the Money School with LaShawn Holland. Please share. Don't forget to share. Why? Because friends don't let friends stay broke. So I want to talk to you today about something that I'm not going to say it bothers me, but it actually does. I was getting ready to say it kind of like irks me. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up Facebook because I want to be able to see your comments or if you have any questions about what I'm talking about today. But the title of this Money School is Someday is not an actual day of the week, right? And so the reason why I say this is because I hear this a lot. A lot of people, often say from even getting on the road to wealth building or building a wealthy lifestyle or just in general an everyday conversation, I hear it all the time from people who are really not committed to changing anything in their lives. And it really doesn't even have to be around money. They're just not committed to change. And you hear people say things like, well, this is just who I am, as if the possibility of changing to becoming a better person is impossible. Like it's always a possibility that you can change. There's always a new level for you to reach. You never truly arrive. I don't believe in this life. I think, as you grow in your thinking, as you grow in your knowledge, as you increase your IQ and opportunity for improvement in everything that we do. And so you find people who really just aren't committed to change in any area of their lives. They have a very poor language that they speak. And the language, part of having a poverty language is always having negative aspects to your speech. It's the first thing, somebody mentions something and immediately somebody has something negative to say. It's never positive. And so you can always tell where their root system is by the things that they say out of their mouth. The Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth, what? It speaks. And so we really have to change this someday mentality. Can you imagine if Jesus would have told the Father, listen, I'll go to the earth someday, but just not today. Or I'll pick up the cross someday, just not today. Or how about this? I don't even feel like getting up out of this camp. Like he could have went to that cave with the rock on it and chilled there. But he didn't do it. Can you imagine if he had that someday mentality? Or can you imagine if Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had the someday mentality? Someday blacks will need to vote, but not today. Or if he got tired of hiding in the back of hearses and, being secretly imported in and out of different cities and states and stuff. And if he just would have gave up, or even if, can you imagine if Abraham Lincoln said, one day I'm going to free the slaves, and then, his someday never happened because he went to go cut wood, or he was frolicking in the slave quarters, which, sorry, I heard he did often. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. But I really think that Rob is in the background just shaking his head. Anyway, I think that, this someday mentality is something that we need to look at and just really get rid of it, because it's not a part of having a wealthy mindset. And so many people have the someday mentality. For example, I'm going to use this as an example. When you see a beautiful home or you ride through a very affluent neighborhood and you think to yourself, someday I'll be able to afford that home. And to be honest, with the someday mindset, you separate yourself. People don't know this, but you separate yourself emotionally from being able to own that home, which means that you have already assumed unconsciously that your ability or your financial power is not at the place where you can acquire it. And so we have to start becoming very conscious of the things that we think and the things that we say out of our mouths, because wealth really does have a language. And so instead, you should say that home is, is mine. I can't wait to move in a home of my own, like that. Many of you have heard the story that I talk about. I'm not going to talk about it now, but my progression, even in my home acquisitions, how that happened. I got something in my ear gate, I got it in my eye gate, it got in my heart, and it became an issue of my life. What do I mean by that? I mean that I was able to possess what I saw, and I just didn't cut myself off by saying someday, I'm going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And so this attitude really reflects your beliefs about you owning something substantial. And so you really have to be intentional about your ability to acquire wealth. Be intentional about your ability to acquire the things that you really desire. And this really reminds me, years ago, I used to work for a company on Rockville Pike. And coming down Rockville Pike every day, some days, a good friend of mine, Pastor Portia Taylor, she wasn't a pastor back then, but she would carpool with me sometimes, and she would be in the car every single day when I passed this particular school. I didn't even have my daughter yet. My sons were just toddlers at the time. They weren't even in school. I used to always point to that school, and she teases me about that today. She was like, everything that you said you were going to do back then, you've done. And so every day when we passed that school, I would point to the school and say, one day my sons are going to go to that school. One day my sons are going to go to that school. Now, they didn't eventually end up they never went to Georgetown, first of all, but they did attend college preparatory schools all their lives. And so, but what was I doing? I was setting my intention. I was charting my course. And so my decision when I began to spend money, my thought process was, will this get me closer to my kids going to independent schools or not? If I kept upgrading my car every time the newest edition would come out, that would take me further away from that dream, further away from that goal. And so someday mentality doesn't allow you to even get in the game of money. Years ago, or the game of wealth, I developed this, and I was teaching at something, I don't remember, but I kept the graphic and I grabbed it today. And I don't know if you can actually see this, babe. Can I see this?
You hold it still for a second, yeah, you zoom in.
Okay. And so this actually is what I call the game of wealth. And when you constantly say that someday you're going to do something, here, this someday is right here. Let me circle it for you. When you constantly say your someday, this is in the wanted stage. That when you hear, you're not even in the game. You're not even on the map. You're nowhere close to being on the map with the someday mentality. You're just in the wanted stage, and then that's it. And so decisions, when you make a decision to do something, when you make a decision to grow something, when you make a decision and anything in period, it means to cut everything else off. All other options have to be cut off. And so making a decision means to cut off from anything else. Like nothing else is worth me doing this. I am making a decision. All of the options are off the table. And so once affirmed in your mind, when you make a decision about something, all of your actions will lead you to obtaining your desire if you desire it strong enough. And so most of the time people wait for external circumstances to change before they take action. And actually, you shouldn't wait for external circumstances, because guess what? You can't control the things that happen on the outside. You can't control what the tax rate is going to be 12 months from now, 24 months from now, 5 or 10 years from now. You can't control that. You can't control the interest rate. But you can control the everyday things that you do with your money. And so, like I said, most of the time people wait for external circumstances to change, like a tax refund check. But they don't understand that the amount of money that they waste in subscriptions that they don't even use, that stuff begins to add up. They wait for their children to graduate. I'm going to wait for my child to graduate before I do X, Y, and Z. Or I'm going to wait until, I get a raise on my job. Well, there are a lot of things that can affect a company's decision of whether they're going to give out raises or bonuses in that particular year. So do you allow external circumstances to dictate where you're growing to? Shouldn't be that way. But what if years from now, when you wait or you have that someday mentality, you miss the opportunity to grow? Listen, there's never from year to year. For instance, I'll use my own self as an example. For year to year, I go back and forth whether I'm going to continue to have my live event every year. But what happens if one year I decide I'm not doing it again? But the last year was the year that we taught you how to grow your money in the market through options trading, right? And you were sitting at home saying next year, next year, next year. I can't tell you how many times I hear that from people. And every year when I look out in the audience, the people that use that someday mentality, I never see their faces. Next year come and go. But then I look, their finances is still the same. And so someday mentality doesn't allow you to get in the game. Think about the things that you've personally put off in your life, things that you said someday about. Look at, the savings challenge, right? And the weekly contributions. Statistics say that 80% of the people that make a goal to start something like a New Year's resolution, we start the savings challenge. If you've been a part of this community anytime, every single January, we start the savings challenge. Although we do have people that will come in at a different time during the year based upon, when they come into my community. But say you make a decision and you want to do the savings challenge and the weekly contributions. Statistics show that 80% of the people that make the resolution never finish. So by December 31st, they don't have the $5,000 from the savings challenge because it was just a someday thing to them. And it wasn't that they made a decision that they were really committed to. Or you put money aside for financial development, or even is financial development even on your radar? When I first got started going to personal development events, one of the things that I would do is have a goal that I would put aside $1,000 for when I needed it. And I would put it in a separate bank account. But I started out with little amounts. It just wasn't $1,000 right off the bat, because that seemed like $1 million to me at that time when you look at almost 3 decades ago. But what I would do was, I like to break things down into chunks. So if there are 12 months in a year and I needed $1,000, that meant I needed to put away roughly about $83 a month, right? Well, if I break that down, that's less than $20 a week that I need to put away. So what I was able to do was monitor where I was spending my money. If I knew I wanted to be able to pay registration for personal development courses, I could go straight to that account because I had created the space in my life to be able to do it. And so a lot of times when, we think of doing that, just $20 a week, that is me setting my intention to get in the game. That's how you do it. And so we make it seem so astronomically big or out of touch. If you just start breaking your goals down into things that you can manage, the process becomes easier for you. And so that goes for anything with you paying off debt. Or how about for the people who, may have said in their heart or said, okay, I really do need to open up a retirement account, or I really do need to get life insurance. We are in the 9th month of the year. How many of you have done that? If you learn 10 things about investing that you didn't know in the past 9 months, from January 1, 2019 to September the 16th, 2019, if you've learned 10 new things about investing, or if you've learned 10 new things about money in general, how many of the 10 are you using in your everyday life? We're in the 9th month of the year. Who have you how many of you have increased your financial knowledge? And then what new actions have you made habits? Because wealth really is a choice. And so if your choice is to be wealthy, no one can make that choice for you but you. I can't make that choice from you. However, most people never made the decision simply because they don't know that they can. Listen, there are a lot of things that I can do for my children, but making the right decisions is not one of them. I can steer them in the right direction, but it's their choice of whether they want to make the decision or not. And so the easiest way to decide is to accept that you want a certain lifestyle. See, I love having money. I love the options. I love the choices that it allows me to have of whether I want to, when I get on the airplane, if I want to sit in first class or coach or business class. I love the options that I have of whether I want to stay in the La Quinta Inn or if I want to stay in St. Regis, or if I don't want to stay or vacation in St. Regis, whether I want to vacation behind guarded fences, where normal general population don't really vacation, or if I want to rent a mansion. I have a choice. And so if I want to spend my vacation at the La Quinta Inn, at least I have a choice if I want to or not. And so it's not done by force. And so the easiest way to decide is to accept that you want a certain lifestyle. What lifestyle do you want? Have you defined that for yourself? Once you do that, you got to develop some goals, right? Which should also outline a plan of action for its attainment. That's really what the money school is about. It is to help you come up with a plan. And so you can create the space to even get in the money game. Often people can't make a choice about wealth because they're caught up in addictive behaviors like watching TV. When people tell me, well, I don't watch a lot of television, but yet I give them a time audit sheet for them to fill out how much time they're spending on the phone talking to their friends, how much time they're actually on social media that's not making them any money, how much time they're spending watching all of their favorite TV shows. I am always amazed when I go to the salons how many times people ask me about different shows do I watch. And in my mind, I'm thinking, who has time to watch all that television? And then you wonder why you don't have no money. Like, that's wasted time. And so they end up wasting time and money by excessively pursuing unworthy endeavors, unworthy of wealth. That's what I mean when I say unworthy endeavors. Again, like watching hours of television. And so these addictions really cloud your mind and prohibit you from thinking of plans where you can increase. And so the choice of wealth really can't be avoided in today's time. It really can't. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is getting wider and wider and wider. Just today, I was reading an article about how many countries. We have more countries today than we ever have in the whole history of the world that have negative interest rates than we've ever had before. And so now is not the time for you to be watching whether Ghost gonna kill Tommy or Tommy gonna kill Ghost. Hey. So those who do not make the choice will be confused. They'll be confused about their money until they make the choice, until they become intentional. Unfortunately, most people have taken the vow of poverty unknowingly. I had someone send me a private message about 2 weeks ago because actually their CPA was asking them about the vow of poverty, and they didn't understand what that meant, and I had to really explain it to them what that meant. But to be honest, when you don't, there are only two choices to be made. Either you want to live an affluent lifestyle or you don't. And you see that happening, not just in America, but all over the world today, that the choice is being made for them. And so by making a choice of wealth, you're only pursuing wealthy and profitable activities, thereby reducing or eliminating unprofitable ones. If I start to really curtail my time into the advancement of my mindset, the advancement of me personally growing, being a better person, not just spiritually, but physically also, by taking better account of what I'm putting inside my body, by what I'm eating, the physical activity that I have by exercising, by taking care of my body, just all of those things that affect who you are as a person holistically. You know, you have to make a choice to be better in all those areas. And then another area that the someday syndrome affects too is people don't know how to respect their papers. Like, you gotta respect your papers. When I say respect your papers, I mean respect your money. It just, making clear decisions lead to clear habits. Like, do you have your money balled up in places? I used to get on my children all the time about having money balled up. Respect your money, flatten it out, put it inside of a wallet, carry it around in a wallet. It shouldn't be all over the place. You know, you just don't respect it. And so remember, you know, everything that you do affects the end results that you have. If you came to Wealthy Revolution Live last year, if you remember, we talked about the 5 primary drivers that you learned at Wealthy Revolution Live. And so how your beliefs affected how you thought. Right? Most people struggle whether wealth is available for them or whether they're worthy of wealth. And I'm talking about believers struggling in this area. But your beliefs affect your thoughts, and your thoughts affect your feelings. And you don't understand unless you've taken, you know, you've gone through and invested in the Abundance Attraction Intensive, where we talk about the money zones, and I break down how money has an emotional aspect to it. It has a spiritual aspect to it. It has a physical aspect to it. And so we talk about the money zones, but you see that your beliefs affect your thoughts affect your feelings, which are where the money zones are internally, where they internally reside. And then your feelings affect your actions, and your actions affect the results that you get. And so we have to start really taking an account, a look at, you know, our beliefs and our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. If you say you want to be here in 12 months and 18 months and 24 months, one, define where here is, and then make sure you stick with the plan. And so again, how you treat money in everyday life, you know, pockets with stuffed cash in them all balled up. Even in church, one of the most fun, if you don't know this, one of the most frustrating thing for counters that have to go in that back office and count that money in church is them balled up dollar bills. You ball it up, it's about this big, and we gotta spend 15 minutes unfolding those $1. Just put the dollar in there. It doesn't matter how much it is, right? Just put it in there, but respect your papers, right? Unfold it and put it in there properly. Treating money like, we treat money like it's an addendum to life, like an add-on to life. Like we treat it, we have thoughtless habits with money, and we're disorganized where money is concerned. We're even disrespectful. It is disrespectful to lose money or drop money on the ground and think, well, it's only a penny or it's only a quarter, and you walk away and leave it. That is showing ungratefulness, because what people don't understand is the lack of care carries over to how you treat your finances in general as a whole. And so when you spend thoughtlessly and you don't keep track of what's going in or what's going out, this is a sign of financial immaturity. And when there's no strategic plan for you saving or even protecting your money, especially that becomes extremely important during these uncertain economic times, is knowing how to protect your money. And so you work hard for your money. You know, treat your money with some respect. Put some respect on your papers. Be mindful about how you treat your money. So when you drop change on the ground, do you just leave it there and think it's only change? Look, cents add up to dollars. Remember, respect your papers. When you do this, it's a sign of ungratefulness for the least. And what you fail to understand is the least is what has the potential to grow to be the greater, if you compound at a higher rate. And so if you look at the tallest tree in the world that grows is the redwood tree, right? It can grow. It has the potential to grow. I think they grow in California. It has the potential to grow to be 300 feet tall. 300 feet tall. It starts out as a seedling. A redwood seedling can grow to be 300 feet up in the air. Seeds count. Coins count. So don't just walk by, a penny or a quarter on the ground and you pass it by. That's an opportunity of growth that's laying there on the ground. Literally, I pick up all change that I see and I hold it up and I say, thank you, Lord. Why? Because anything over zero is a plus. I remember years ago when, we were getting ready to go on vacation, and I'm closing here, but we were getting ready to go on vacation. I think my daughter was in middle school then, and she was collecting her coins, right? Because I used to take her to take them to the bank so she can cash them in to get cash. And she started going to her brothers, and they would keep cups of coins on their dresser, and they would just throw them in there. And so she started collecting everybody's money. She would go in and she would be like, hey, Adam, can I have the change on your dresser? He would be like, sure, Zoe. Jonathan. Now, they were in high school at the time, I think, or she may have been in elementary, I don't know. But the moral of the story is she would go in and she would take change from her brothers, put it in her little jugs that she used to have. And one particular vacation, she had over $400, right? I think she had like $480 just from change. And when she came in the house, she spreaded that money out in front of her brothers, and she was so happy, smiling. And they were like, where did you get all that money from? And she told them, I just took the change to the bank. And so after that, they was like, when she would go in and be like, can I have your change? They would say, no, you can't have my change. But we need to start being like Zoe, collecting coins. You gotta gather your papers. Even in the Bible, when Jesus gave, turned the boys' two-piece fish dinner, and he fed the 5,000, it didn't stop at just feeding the 5,000. If you read it again, it says they went by and they gathered up all the fragments until they had 12 basketfuls. They gathered the fragments. If your fragments didn't mean anything to God, that wouldn't have been inside of that parable. It would have never been mentioned in the Bible. So respect your papers. And so the 5 steps to mastery and getting rid of really the someday syndrome is initial impact. Decide to be in motion. 2, repetition. Repetition is the mother of all skill. Tony Robbins says this all the time. If you do something over and over again, you become a master at it. Like becoming intimate with your money is a repetitious act. How often do you even sit down with your money to have conversations? Like, I know it sounds crazy, but I used to do it. And so how intimate are you becoming with your money, knowing everything that's coming in and everything that's going out? So repetition. That's why when you go to kindergarten, every day they have them recite their ABCs. They count to 10. They count to 20. It's repetitious. Why? Because when you repeat something over and over and over again, you become a master of it. Number 3 is utilization, right? Apply what you learn. Apply what you learn. Don't get on the information Ferris wheel. You got so much information on a particular subject, you never do anything. You become what do they say? Jack of all trades and master of none. Listen, you have to utilize, you have to apply what you learn. Don't just repeat it in your head, repeat it in your life, not just in your head. Number 4 is integration. When you start to integrate new financial concepts in your daily routines, they become effortless. Listen, when you start saving money with the savings challenge and you automate the process every single pay period or every week, you automate that process, it becomes effortless. And so integration, the stuff that you learn at Wealthy Revolution Live, the stuff that you learn inside of my programs, the stuff that you learn on the Money School, listen, you have to integrate it into your everyday life. And the 5th thing is reinforcement. And so if you don't use it, you'll lose it. If the only way to really become strong and financially solvent is to continually use the new skills that you learn on these money shows and inside of programs like Abundance Attraction Intensive. If you go through the section there on loans, guess what? The next time around that I go buy a car, the next time around that I go look for housing, the next time around that I make a major financial decision, I'm better equipped to be able to do that. And so that's what reinforcement is. You have to be able to use it or you'll lose it. So if you remember my book, In Born to Multiply, I talk about the learning process. Read that again, implement it in your life. And so that's all that I have today in the Money School with LaShawn. I will see you next week. Have a blessed week.